It's a new year, so it's time to create a little change in our lives. That's why we brought in motivational speaker Jonathan Sprinkles, who can share with us how to get it straight in 2008. Welcome back to Outlook Houston.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
And you know, this is a time when we make resolutions and we vow to change some things. And I've done that. I got my list is short this year, but I got my list.
Good.
But you have some advice for people. And the first thing we talk about, or going to talk about, are some of the myths that are associated with, you know, making these resolutions and creating change in our lives. And the first one you say is a new year equals a new you.
Yeah, Yolanda, we say some dumb stuff around the new year. We really do. We assume that because the year is going to be different, then all of a sudden we're going to be different. Why? If you look at the calendar, it was made by an agrarian society, and it was made for two purposes. Number one, for farming, and also for rituals. It wasn't so you can name and claim your new Mercedes-Benz or something in the next year or anything like that.
But isn't that a good time to do it?
It's good psychologically, but it's bad if that is the only impetus you have for changing. For example, if I had a habit of drunk driving or something like that, you knew I was an alcoholic, and I go out every single weekend and I drink too much, and you wouldn't say, Jonathan, in the new year, you need to stop doing that. You know, you only have 7 more weekends of that. You would say, do it now. You would say, stop doing that right now. And that's what happens when you're really serious about it. You can't name and claim anything. It is all about you taking action. So nothing will change until you change.
I like that. Now, the other thing that you say is that New Year's resolutions will last all year long, and I am so guilty of not letting them last all year long. Why is
Well, we all are, because they're unrealistic. We say, okay, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get on a diet, I'm going to get organized, and all those things, and that's too much at one time. We're going to talk a little bit about what you should do, but it's just too much. It's unrealistic. What we do is we draw out a picture of our most ideal self, and we assume that everything that we did up until now is going to change now that it's January 1st, and that's just unrealistic. That's not the way that it works. If you poured some water into my hands, well, as time goes on, the water would what? It would escape, because it's not going to hold very well. Well, that's the same way that our emotions and our motivation is when we have a New Year's resolution. The longer time goes, the more it escapes. So what we have to do is find a system and a structure that will support our resolution.
So don't just pour it into your hands.
There you go. Don't pour it into your hands. You have to have a structure in order to make that thing happen. As a matter of fact, I don't believe people ought to have resolutions, and I don't believe that we ought to have all the other stuff. I believe that what we ought to do is have a plan.
Yeah, and so I know that's one of the things that we're going to talk about in our next segment. But I guess for me, it always seems like the new year is just that opportunity to really begin to grow and to change and to do something different. But it's about creating a different mindset.
Right. It's about having a different mindset, exactly as you said. It's not until you have a change of mind that you will ever see a change of life. You have to renew your mind day by day, and it's only when you renew your mind that things are going to change. I read a statistic some time ago that really upset me when I first heard it, but it actually made a lot of sense once I thought about it. The guy said that if you took all the money in the world and you equally divided it among every single person in the entire world, that eventually the money would return to its original hands. And the reason why is because of the way that we all think. Rich people have rich thoughts. Poor people have poor thoughts. Happy people have So, you know, you could think about it any way you want, put any variable in there that you want, but it's not until you renew your mind. You know, the 75% of lottery winners go back to being
And that's
broke.
what I was thinking about, because a lot of times people say, if I hit the lottery, things are going to change. But if you have those same spending habits, you're just spending more instead of spending, you know, what you had before.
That's just who you are. So it's not until you change your mind and change the way that you view your health, or change the way that you view your money or your relationship, that you're going to get any type of difference in your life.
And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Until all of you stay right there, we're going to have more with Jonathan Sprinkles when Outlook Houston returns.